what we're going to do is I'll just get the microphone near me. What we're going to do is another episode. This will be episode 19 of the Astrakhan's Feather. Now, remember, just to give you a quick recap. So Trevor Aisbett, the mayor, he's been attacked in his home. Nobody knows about that apart from you, the reader, at the moment. And while that's gone on, this following here is what's all going on that evening, right? Just a quick spoiler, it's all evening before they discover Trev in the morning, or somebody does, and we'll get on to that, just to put it in perspective for you. Anyway, I'm going to introduce a new character here because I haven't done that for about 5 minutes. And it's a character called Trunk, or at least that's his kind of nickname, I suppose. He's based on a bloke that I know really well, who's an ex-editor that I used to work with. And big, gargantuan man, you know, a man of many appetites, as they might say. And lovely bloke to work with, though, and incredibly talented. But basically what he used to do, he was married with kids, right? 2 little kids, 2 girls. And he used to go to brothels. Oh, not with a wife and kids, you understand. Yeah, he didn't do that. Or gambling. He'd go out at night gambling. I don't know what he was telling his wife, but anyway, off he'd go in his company tied to camera, you know. And so in the mornings often, he always had an amazing story to tell, which he always said, hey, Bozzy, don't tell anybody about this, but let me tell you what happened. And then as each person came into the office, he'd tell them the same thing. So the story obviously would very soon be out there. And there was always some drama happening there. Anyway, great bloke. But what he would do when he came back in the office in the morning, right? He'd make the most wonderful newspapers. He really did. He's like an old Fleet Street journalist. You know, he could hack it. But what he would do as he worked is, whereas most of us might have coffee, he'd be drinking Red Bull. He'd be sculling it down, right? And one day I was watching him, and he drank this can of Red Bull. And no, sorry, he had this Toblerone, right? Because he'd always eat chocolate as well. He's a big bloke. And he'd crunch his way through the Toblerone as he was working. And then he'd scull a great big, like, tin of Red Bull. And I looked at him one day, he was doing this. He said, "Here, Bozzy, Toblerone Bull Chaser, can't beat it." And he'd just run on this all the time. Anyway, enough about that now. So let's meet him in the flesh, as it were. Trump splashes Red Bull over vodka. He holds the glass up, examines it like a scientist, swirls it around. Piggy spectacles opaque. Trunk smiles at the liquid, then suddenly sculls it in one. Trunk closes his eyes. He moans softly as it fizzes and scorches down his throat. The door opens and a man with a gun walks in. Music roars behind him. He closes a soundproof door. Trunk smiles tightly. "Welcome, officer." Trunk. Cooper Blackwelder drops into the large leather button-down, which would be the biggest thing in the room if Trunk wasn't there. Coop's gun pokes out from under a black T-shirt that says Rocker in swirling cream italics. "How's it going?" he says to Trunk. "And this would be?" asks Trunk. Coop turns and winks at Benny standing by the back of the chair. Trunk calls it in a second, fresh-faced, so a probie, just out, nothing much to worry about. Cooper Blackwelder, on the other hand, but only because he's thick as a baobab tree. "Good friend of mine," says Coop. Double-Bee, we call him. "Ah, also an officer of the law." Coop smiles. "That's what we all like about you, Trunk. You're so smart, don't miss a trick." Trunk makes his chair groan as he sits down behind the desk. Benny can't believe the nightclub owner's size. He seems to flow over the edges of the chair, half molten. Coop told him on the way over, travelling in Coop's white single-cab pickup. Here, it's called a ute. There's no point in me putting ute in the story because it's short for utility, right? Because everywhere else in the world, it's known as a pickup. So there we go. Coop told him on the way over, travelling in Coop's white single-cab pickup, stickers on the rear of the aluminium tray. "You don't like it, leave. Sorry, we're full." And one for the mums to explain to the little ones as they follow the ute down the mountain on the school run. "What you call pussy, I call lunch." This last one is absolutely true, and it happened to me. I'm following one of these, they call them bogans here, right? One of these bogans down the mountain. He had this sticker on the back. The kids, the 2 boys, they're quite young then. I'll tell you what, they're the same age as in this story, right? So they're 3 and 5. And the 5-year-old says to me, Daddy, Daddy, well, what does that mean? Or why would they be eating? Why would they be eating a cat? He's always been quite bright. I said, look, some men, they just like to eat cats. It's just the way it is, you know. And he went, well, that's really bad. That's yuck. That's yuck. Anyway, I didn't think anything more of it. That afternoon, I pick him up from school. First thing, he's been thinking about it all day, of course. He says to the wife, he says, oh, Daddy told me a really bad thing today, Mummy, that some men, they like to eat pussy for lunch. And she looks at me. I don't know, she didn't really know what to say, but you could see it was boiling up inside her. Later on, she said to me, why are you teaching them things like this? Oh, my God, you know. Anyway, let's carry on. Trunk Peters, he's a fat fuck, Coop had said as they drove down to Richmond, pushing it. Tyres squealing on the bends, lights raking the trees, lightning flashing, the road wet and steaming. Benny had looked behind him. They were pulling tendrils of mist in the red flare of the brake lights. Always falling foul of the law was Trunk, said Coop, selling drugs through the club, bit of robbery with intent, driving like a fucking nutter, getting pissed, half cut on coke most of the time. Coop smiles at Benny. Those were the days. Anyway, Sarge down in Richmond here took him under his wing. Benny nods. Gave him some mentoring. Coop looks at Benny and thinks, where the fuck's this boy from? Yeah, he says something like that. Anyways, Trunk's legit now, runs the Mars Club. He wanted to call it Uranus, but the guys had a big no to that. The guys? Coop grips the steering wheel hard. Oh, fuck, he could be careless. Uncle Trey was always telling him that. Back when he was a nipper out in one of the sheds, he'd knocked over a pitcher of Penrite oil. And when the young not only told him he was effing careless, but dealt him a crack across the head with a hand hard and rigid as a plank of jarrah. Coop shook his head to get rid of the painful memory. Yeah, well, anyway, Trunk runs the club. A few of us cops go down, have a drink or two, keep an eye on things. I see, says Benny. Keep it peaceful. Coop had smiled like Jack Nicholson. Sure. When they stepped in the club, Benny almost fainted. He thought his ears might bleed. The thumping music battered his eardrums. The noise was terrific. Huge revolving lights spun myriad colours across the darkened walls and ceiling, and he couldn't see the edges of the room. There had to be aircon, but the seething mass of people made it so hot. It was heaving as they moved to the thumping beat, and sweat was on the walls. They steamed their way through, Coop leering at the girls. Benny had tried his best to get through the gyrating mass of people without touching any of them, but you couldn't do that. A pretty girl with glimmering druggy eyes and liquid pink lips with silver specks had smiled and squeezed his cock as he passed. He was so shocked he said nothing. The music pounded as an invisible DJ bellowed and spun discs backwards. It was raw, dirty, exciting, and Benny had never seen anything like it. All right, we're going to leave it there. It's a reasonably short one, but I don't want to, I want to keep it fresh. Okay. Anyway, there you go. Talk to you again soon for the next thrilling episode. Bye-bye.